Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Good Shabbos. And I have said tonight is a special Shabbat. It's called Shabbat Shuvah, which means a Shabbat of return. And we're going to read some things in this Torah portion. This particular Torah portion is read every year before Yom Kippur, which happens to be next week. So we're going to do something that's not really in your notes. I've written it up here. Vayalech is a Torah portion that we would read alongside of the Haftorah. We're going to read it first. We're going to consider some things out of Vayalech. It's Devarim, or Deuteronomy 31. And I'm going to read some verses out of it because I want us to kind of start getting a feel for what we're going to be discussing. Each one of these three portions has three mitzvah for us to follow, to try in our lifetime to accomplish. So we're going to begin in chapter 31 of Devarim. It begins with the word Vayalech. It says, "And Moses went and spoke these words unto all Israel. And he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. I can no longer go out and come in. And Yehovah has said unto me, you shall not go over this Jordan. Yehovah your Elohim, he will go before you. He will destroy these nations from before you, and you shall dispossess them. And Yehoshua, he shall go over before you, as Yehovah has spoken." Move down to verse 7. We begin to read, "And Moses called unto Yehoshua, and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of good courage, for you shall go with this people into the land which Yehovah has sworn unto their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it." Verse 8 continues, "And Yehovah, he it is that does go before you. He will be with you. He will not fail you, neither forsake you. Fear not, neither be dismayed." Then we have an interesting verse, verse 9. It says, "And Moses wrote this Torah, and delivered it unto the priests and the sons of Levi, that bore the ark of the covenant of Yehovah, and unto the elders of Israel. And Moses commanded them, saying, At the end of every 7 years, in the set time of the year of release, is the Feast of Tabernacles." And he's talking about the Shemitah. We are entering in the Shemitah year, so what he's about to say is something that we are to do at the end of the Shemitah year. And he says what we're supposed to do in verse 11, "When all Israel is to come appear before Yehovah your Eloheinu, or your Elohim, in the place which he shall choose, you shall read this Torah before all Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people, the men and the women, and the little ones, and your stranger that is within your gates, that he may hear, and that he may learn, and reverence Yehovah your Elohim, and observe to do all the words of this Torah. And that their children who have not known may hear, and learn to reverence Yehovah your Elohim, as long as you live in the land where you go over the Jordan to possess it." Yehovah said unto Moses, "Behold, your days approach, and you must die. Call Yehoshua and present yourselves in the tent of meeting, that I may give him charge." And Moses and Yehoshua went and presented themselves in the tent of meeting. And Yehovah appeared in the tent in a pillar of a cloud, and the pillar of the cloud stood over the door of the tent. And Yehovah said unto Moses, "Behold, you are about to sleep with your fathers, and this people will rise up and go astray after foreign deities of the land, whether they go to be among them. and forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then in my anger it shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall come upon them, so that they will say in that day, are not these evils come upon us because our Elohim is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day for all the evil which they shall have wrought, in that they have turned to other deities. Now these next 4 verses are very important for us to understand as part of the mitzvah. Verse 19, now therefore write you this song for you, and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. For when I shall have brought them into the land which I swore to their fathers, flowing with milk and honey, and they shall have eaten their fill, and grown fat, and turned unto other deities, and served them, and despised me, and broken my covenant. Then it shall come to pass, when many evils and troubles are upon them, that this song shall testify before them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed. For I know their imagination, how they do even now, before I have brought them into the land which I swore. So Moses wrote this song the same day, and he taught the children of Israel. It's kind of a really, really important portion that we have to understand. We have 3 mitzvot that are given to us in this Torah portion. The first mitzvot is, he's telling us that although we have a relationship with our Elohim, that things are going to come into our lives that distract us away. Okay? But there's always going to be something there that reminds us to make teshuvah. So the first mitzvot is to recognize that there is something that will pull us away, but there was something that will draw us back. So the first mitzvot is to recognize
pulling back.
falsehood. Recognize falsehood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is not a mitzvah that is spoken of a lot in traditional Judaism. This is something that we read right here. Another mitzvah that he's talking about is that at the end of the Shemitah, and this is one that's written here, at the end of Shemitah is that we are all to gather together at a place where he chooses. So we are to gather together at end of Shemitah at a place where Elohim chooses. Now, the third mitzvot.
At the
Shemitah.
Shemitah,
yeah, it's the end of the sabbatical year.
Oh.
The end of the sabbatical year. The sabbatical year is called the Shemitah. Every 7 years we have a year that we allow the ground to rest. We don't plant anything. Now, the third mitzvot is an important mitzvot that is going to lead us back to the first mitzvot to be able to complete it. And the third mitzvot is that we are to write this song. And we'll talk more about writing this song in a minute, but writing the Song of Moses. We are to write and remember, there we go. Writing in Hebrew.
It's R-E-M-E-M-B.
My son walks into the room, I'm listening to a lecture by a rabbi, he says, is that Chinese?
Oh my goodness.
Write and remember the song of Moses. Write and remember the song of Moses. Because this song of Moses is going to do something. And something else that we read in this parasha is that Moshe is going to die. But Yehoshua, the salvation of Yehovah, is going to bring us to salvation. So we recognize falsehood, make Yeshua, we turn around and follow Yeshua, who is to us is not Yehoshua, who is not Joshua, but we know him as Yeshua, who is the salvation of Elohim, who is the salvation of Yehovah, who is going to lead us over the Jordan into the promised land. So these are three mitzvot. We're going to come back to write and remember the Song of Moses after we've talked about the Parashat Devarim, chapter 32, and it's Parasha Ha'azinu. Ha'azinu. Now, Parasha Ha'azinu is always read, like I've said, on the Shabbat prior to Yom Kippur. This is a time that we seek Yehovah Eloheinu, our Elohim, when He is closest to our hearts and closest to our minds. We've just come out of the month of Elul, where we have been reflecting on where we are. We are just finishing Rosh Hashanah, where we have reflected on where we are and where we stand with Yehovah our Elohim. So we are thinking about how close we are. And He is on our minds and He is in our hearts right now at this particular time. So this is a time that we come to Him. Now, Parasha Ha'azinu is a 70-line song. It's a 70-line song. So if we consider Ha'azinu to be a 70-line song, the numerical value of ayin, okay? The numerical value of ayin, 70 equals ayin. What does ayin tell us? That we need to pay attention. We need to be perceptive to what is contained in this Torah portion. Something that's interesting, we say that the Torah wasn't numbered, but it was the rabbis that numbered it originally. And later on down the road, during the Reformation, the numbering got thrown off kilter. But Devarim 32, where we find this 70-line song of Moses, 32 equals this word, which means heart. So we are to be what? Perceptive of the heart of Yehovah our Elohim, which is what? His Torah. We have to pay attention to His Word. We have to pay attention to His Torah. So we understand that we have to consider Devarim. What does Devarim mean? Devarim comes from Devar. It means word. It also means commands. And it also means promises. So what are we considering? What are we perceiving that's within His heart, that's within His Torah, that we have to pay attention and perceive? His Word, His commands, and also His promises. And He has positive promises, and as we read in the portion 31, Va'alech, that there are negative promises as well. He says this is going to happen. Get ready, be prepared. If you don't stay in my word, if you don't write it down, if you don't follow my salvation, then you will stray. And that's the gist of what he's telling us. So we listen where we get to verse number 1 of Devarim 32. It says, "Listen, you heavens, and I will speak." Literally it says, "Give ear, you heavens, and I will speak. And let the earth hear the words of my mouth." This verse is very important to our being able to apply the balance of the parasha to our day-to-day lives. Moses is speaking to the heavens and to the earth. The heavens are to listen, the earth is to hear. They are in essence to give a witness to what is about to be said. Now, Isaiah has a twist on this at Isaiah 1 and 2, that this order is reversed, where he says, "Hear, O heavens, and give ear," or "Listen, O earth." So when we consider this along with our parsha, it gives us an idea that there is a two-way connection going on, that we can communicate with the heavenly realm of our Elohim, and that heavenly realm of our Elohim can communicate with us. And we consider that Yeshua kind of summed things up when he says in his model prayer, "As your will is in heaven, so let it be on earth." And that's from the Aramaic. So, as your will is in heaven, so let it be on earth. Most of our King Jimmies say on earth as it is in heaven, which is the same thing. But in Semitic writings, heaven will always come before earth. So, as it is in heaven, it shall also be on earth. So, it's telling us that it is the spiritual realm that controls what happens in the physical realm, and that we have just read that we have access to communicate to the realm of our Elohim, and he has a means to communicate back to us. This is a concept that we spoke about a few months ago in Jacob's ladder. That Jacob fell asleep and he saw what? He saw a ladder that connected the heavens to the earth. And what he saw was malachim, ascending and descending. Messengers that go up and messengers that come down. That our messages are going up, and the messages are coming back down to us to communicate. So this is important that we have to consider this. Now, verse 2 says, "My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender grass, and as the showers upon the herb." It is Moses speaking. So we ask, what is his doctrine? This is the last day of Moses' life. This takes place on the last day of his life. At the end of this parasha, he is going to go up to Mount Nebo, and he's going to see the promised land, as Yehovah promised him that he would. And then he is going to die, and the cherubim are going to bury him. And we're going to read that the children of Israel mourned Moses, and then they moved on. But this is the last day of his life. For the last 40 years, he has dedicated his life to one thing: teaching the Torah. The Torah, the word of Yehovah Elohim, is his doctrine. And he is saying that it will rain on us, form as dew forms on the grass upon us, and it will in essence water our lives. We are created from chadamah. We are created from the soil. In order for us to be able to grow and bear fruit, we must be watered. The Torah is the living water. It rains. It forms as dew on us. And because of that, it moistens the soil so that we can bear fruit. So we have to pay attention and allow our perception to be led by the word of Elohim. Where do we begin? Verse 3 says, For I will proclaim the name of Yehovah, ascribe you greatness.